It's trying.
Welcome,
Guys?
everybody. Who's going to kick this off?
Howdy.
It's been too long. We don't know how to kick off a show anymore.
It's been a long time.
It has, man. It's
I'm sure our viewers are wondering, are we canceling this deal? Are we keeping it going? Because I know, JC, you were on once before that one kind of faded away. But
Yeah.
we're still here.
We've had a couple. Yeah, I forgot about
It's
that
been-
one. That was funny.
3 extremely busy guys.
yeah,
Indeed.
life has a way of getting crazy, man. And so it's but here we are. It's middle of February. We've got spring is coming. We've got new EVs to talk about. We got Everdrive to talk about. We've got all kinds of fun things happening. So we thought, let's get together, man. Let's get the band back together. Let's get up on a rooftop. Let's get like the Beatles. Nobody in our audience is old enough to know the Beatles. What I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know who the Beatles are.
There's a few. I think.
Yeah, man. Welcome everybody back. Let's get
Right.
let's get tech charged, man.
That we need to.
Episode 30, is that right? Are we on episode 30?
Yeah, episode. But that's what I had down. It said 29 was our
Heck
last
yeah.
one before it canceled the
Check
Lightning.
this
I
out.
think that's the last time we had a show.
Oh man, is that right? Check that out. So
Right
our
before
last-
Christmas. Yeah, right.
Yeah, a month ago is what it said. Streamed a month ago. So
All
it's
right,
been
yeah,
a month.
yeah,
we
little-
have got to do better. I don't know how we're going to get life out of the way to have our episode, the all important tech charged. But
Yeah. But that's cool though. So tech charge, Ford cancels the Lightning. Then we get cool news about the new universal EV platform. Let's bring it back. Ford
Boom.
cancels. Ford brings back. Let's go.
Another pivot.
but from what the pictures everybody's posting online, it doesn't look like it's a full size. So that's
no.
probably good and bad at the
No,
same time.
It's
depending on
not
who
full
you are.
size.
Yeah.
But I think they're saying that, really they want to try to make it as big as possible. It's sort of like Maverick, like small but roomy.
We're speculating here, but do we think it's Maverick or do we think it's more Ranger or in between, or we don't know? The picture's hard to tell.
It is
I
hard to tell.
I speculated Maverick only because Ford seems to love that. And happy birthday, by the way, Alex. Good for you,
Yeah,
man.
happy birthday.
To you. Man, we got all kinds of oversharing today. We got Raven over here taking a shower. Don't be afraid to listen to us in the shower as long as your phone is waterproof, or leave it outside the shower. We will keep you company as you suds it up. That's awesome. So I just speculated Maverick on. I did a video for those that don't know. I posted this morning kind of my opinions on it, and I speculated and went with Maverick simply because of the size, and it seemed like a Maverick-esque size. And Ford seems to love to do that, right? They love to take their brands, and they went with Lightning, and they went with Mustang, and they seem to want to do that. But there's other ones out there, right? I've heard other names tossed out that could certainly, be out there in that sphere of names to bring back. But, they've got the EcoBoost, they've got the hybrid. The Maverick is doing great numbers already. So it just seems on brand to go with Maverick. But, nobody's announced it or said anything.
Well, I heard the
as far as I
word.
know.
Did you hear the word ranchero thrown out somewhere?
I've
Somebody
heard
was speculating
ranchero.
Yeah, I believe that has been the trademark on that has been re-upped a couple times, even recently, I think. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, but yeah, I know. I think sort of Maverick size, but I really do think with that, like almost like maybe Maverick size on the outside, like Ranger size on the inside. Do you know what I mean? Kind of by that,
Well, the
like
Maverick's not
as
exactly
roomy as
small on the
possible.
inside, Jace. You've been in them. It's not. It's a
Yeah,
comfortable
no,
little
I
truck.
agree. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I think it's just maybe if you could get, with a frunk too up front. We know there's going to be a frunk. Ford confirmed there will be a frunk, so that's good to hear that,
Yeah.
it's going to for sure exist. Yeah, I mean, I think, but what would they call it? That would be the interesting thing, if they do go the Maverick route, like, with F1, it's an F-150 Lightning, right? So like Maverick, I don't know. It's just it to me, it's like it's a whole new platform. I almost want them to make it their own thing and not be attached to Maverick. Do you know what I mean? Because I mean, they compared it to Maverick, right? Saying like 146 parts versus 2 parts. And so I just feel like I don't know, to name it Maverick would be interesting, but yeah, size wise I think we're headed towards maybe that, around that size.
Which is probably makes sense for commuters or a second vehicle, especially at the price point they're targeting. Everybody's speculated, but they're saying 30,000 to start.
Yeah, Ford did confirm that actually. They said they are still they are sticking with this starting right around or at 30,000. And I believe they said still with the 2027 launch. I don't know if they said like beginning, middle, or end, but I know they confirmed 2027 still.
Well, speaking of launching, has anybody heard anything on the EREV launch? Since we're talking about they didn't say, I guess I'm getting a little ahead of myself. We know about we're going to call it the Maverick for a second, Maverick EV. I don't think that's going to be the name, but were there other platforms that during their call or whatever they announced, was there other platforms that they actually confirmed anything?
Just the EREV has been confirmed basically by that announcement that they made after the cancellation of the Lightning. And I think Doug said,
Right.
tech forward, full size, F-150 Lightning successor. But they have not talked about that. And I think the reason for that is, and I kind of posted about this on Twitter today, because there's still a lot of confusion. Even when I post stuff about the Universal EV and the Lightning group, people think that is the next EREV Lightning or like the T3.
Yeah.
There's a lot of confusion. So like essentially T3 for all intents and purposes that we know is dead. So
Yeah.
so people understand that like T3 is probably not going to happen maybe in the future. But like it's not being built at Blue Oval City, Tennessee. It's gone. And so like I saw somebody when I posted the UAV stuff, they're like, "Oh, Ford's copying the BYD Shark," and it's like, no, that's the EREV. That would, I wouldn't even say it's a copy, but that's what you're comparing to. This is a Maverick, sized, mid-size truck that is full BEV. So and made by a completely different team. Like Tom Malogny had that great interview with Alan Clark today, and he was saying, and I think people confuse the timing, and I don't blame them for that necessarily, but Alan Clark and Doug Field came around 2022. So they did not work on the first gen EVs. They had nothing to do with the first gen EVs from Ford. In fact, really, like Alan Clark said, he wasn't really even working on per se the second gen like T3 or anything like that. He really came in and he started working directly on the Universal EV platform, and that's pretty much all that he's been, responsible for here on out. Doug Field, I think, has been I think he was in the T3 conversations a little bit more. But he is also leading up that Skunkworks team, which is essentially like, the way that they put it was like Alan put it was like a bet within Ford. It's, it's a startup within Ford, which I think people don't quite understand that the first gen EVs weren't that. They were very small teams, very small budgets, though they were great products. And I think that's why they tug at our heartstrings so much. It's because Lightning and Mach-E were such good products with such small teams, and are such great products still, truly. And that's why it's hard for us to sort of accept losing them. But we have to remember that was really always the game plan. That was they were a stepping stone to the second gen EVs. Now we've seen obviously that that's sort of changed a little bit with the universal EV program, but really the UEV is still Ford's second gen EVs. That's what's coming. It's just a different price point and a different vehicle, and I think honestly for the better. Ford's second gen EVs would have been something akin to, in my opinion, like an Altium Silverado, something like that. Still probably not profitable, big battery, maybe a little bit more advanced, maybe a little more Cybertruck-esque, but not to benefit the company. So I think in the end, this is what's needed, even though, maybe wasn't exactly what we saw happening or wanted per se, right?
I think that's exactly right, Jace. I mean, it's what's needed. I'm not going to buy it. My wife might. She's driving a Mach-E, but misses the Lightning. This might be a good fill in between.
Mm-hmm.
She still likes to drive a truck. She's had 2 of the first gen, well, the latest gen Ranger, 19 and 20, and love those trucks. If that truck had a full battery and maybe even a hybrid, she would be on board. So I don't know that I completely agree that this is the second generation of a full-size F-150 Lightning replacement. I think it's a new generation of a truck that is affordable to compete with Slate, that will sell. I really do think this is going to sell, depending on, I don't know. I think if the dealers will market it properly, which we all know the dealers did not market and pitch the Lightning properly. We were the guys helping people out that are, even today. I mean, you guys saw the post Amy had posted on there today. She's a new Lightning potential buyer. She pulls horse trailers. She's asking questions. She said, "What's your biggest concerns or whatever with when you're buying your Lightning?" And a lot of it was the dealer's lack of knowledge. We've talked about this before. The dealer that I walked onto in the first year said these trucks won't know right when I walked up to him, and we all know that's not true. It's just about distance. So I think that's the thing, is if they can pitch this and train the dealers and let people know what it'll do, I think that's where it separates us from the other platforms. Equinox is doing great for its size and its price point because it's pretty easy. I hate the fact that the next gen Lightning is going to be an E-Rev, even if they don't call it a Lightning. It's going to feel like it because I'm a BEV guy now. I'm not a hybrid guy. Contrary to my Everdrive project, I still like full.
Yeah, what are you talking about? No, yeah.
I know.
Like,
it's funny because
I put a generator in the back of my truck.
Yeah, we'll get that.
No,
we'll get to that. I'm doing that for one reason, and that's more range. And I'm really trying to stay with Ford because I've driven the Chevy, and it's the only competition for towing that you have. But I'll probably end up buying an E-Rev just because it works for long distance towing. I'm hoping there's enough range in that battery to go my Tulsa and back trip without burning too much fuel. I don't ever want to start when we go to Tulsa and back, it's an hour one way. I don't charge, and I don't want to charge. I charge at home. So that trip, I think it needs to be 150 mile range to 180 mile range on battery, and then a smaller generator to give you enough to boost it. Because we've talked about the range and the batteries and stuff. Something I wanted to discuss tonight was, consumption is one of the things that they talked about, not directly, but on this new platform. The efficiency of this new vehicle, from what I read, is going to be much higher. And I think that is the reason we don't have the range in a Lightning. If you take a Cybertruck compared to a Lightning, there's about a 15 to 20% difference in efficiency. And it's that way again on the Rivian. The Rivian's more efficient than a Lightning. So if they can work on that and then maybe put a little more battery, a little more tech into the technology of the battery, that has a good potential to be over 300 mile real range. I think one of the big misses that the Lightning had is they rated it at 320, whereas Chevy rates the Silverado at, like, I'm going to say when they first came out, at 440. The Lightning's not 320, not in the sense of what us guys want to know. Like, how far will it go? No, let's be real. Nobody gives a shit what it'll do around town because you're home charging every night. Nobody cares about that. You can get 500 miles of range. That just means you don't have to charge it every night, but you're always home. What we care about is how far can I have to drive before I have to pull over and charge it. Chevy rated theirs at 440, and it will do it at 70. The Lightning's 260. Let's be real. So I'm hoping
Yeah,
this
I think
efficiency changes, they can get that 300-mile range on the highway at 70.
that's a huge deal, because when somebody says that, well, one, gas vehicles always break down the two different ranges.
Yep.
They always say it's this MPG highway, this MPG city. And for whatever reason, they've decided not to do that with electric. And you always know that your highway miles is more efficient. And with electric, it really does hurt them that when they say that an electric vehicle gets 300 miles of range, that is well, a lot of people don't know, actually. A lot of people don't know that that's a combined rating, and that really requires a lot of around town driving. So if somebody goes on a road trip and God forbid it's cold, God forbid the wind is blowing your direction, God forbid that you're doing 85 miles an hour.
Chris, you act like you've driven a Lightning before.
Right. Yeah. I mean, when I was coming across the country and doing, hitting those headwinds, I saw 1.1 miles per kilowatt hour, a number I had never seen in California. When, I was coming across those Midwestern winds and snow flurries and things that I had never experienced in my life in California.
Now you know what me and Jace have been dealing with.
Yeah, I'd never seen
especially this
like
winter.
That.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Yeah, much less what you guys have seen. A true winter I had never seen, but I was seeing. Those were. I think it was snow flurries, 29 degrees, and I can't remember the winds, maybe like 36 miles an hour. And I was getting 1.1 miles per kilowatt hour, and I was blown away. I had never experienced anything like that in my life. And around here in California commute, I was getting, 3 miles per kilowatt hour in my Lightning. So, it was crazy to get that juxtaposition of experience. And so, yeah, if you're a Midwestern person living in, Texas and, anywhere in the Midwest where you've got long stretches of road and highway where you're, what's that?
No
what's that
mountains,
line?
no trees to block the wind.
Right. It's and then you buy one of these Lightnings thinking that you're going to get 320 miles of range, and then
it's 180.
you get right, and then you hook up a trailer to tow. I mean, of course you're going to be upset. So, yeah, that's a one hell of a shock.
I'd
Well, I
still
really
love
want
to
him
see
to-
Ford open up some of that buffer. I really would. I think it would just. They know they don't need all 10. Just give us 5 extra. I mean, man, it'd be so nice.
You know
and
what?
I don't know if it's gonna happen, but
I shouldn't say too much, but we're working on that.
Now, don't you think that is part of why
Nice.
when you have these reviews that say, "Hey, I've had my Lightning for 3 years and I have no degradation," Tom Malogny, for example, who lives in New Jersey, and he's had plenty of winters and he's done DC fast charging, and the dude has 0 degradation. Isn't that because
trust me, they know they've heard the
It's not
feedback. I
true.
can promise you that they have heard the feedback, but things take a while at big companies.
I think they aren't they? Doesn't that mean they are opening up some of that stuff over time somehow behind the scenes in the software to have 0 degradation?
Nobody's
No.
really ever proven it, I don't think.
It's that degradation number, it's coming from the available, the 131. So how much degradation do you have to get the range for the 131? That's why we see 50,000 mile Lightnings at 100% state of health.
Yeah, I really don't see any.
Tesla doesn't do
I've
that.
never heard from a Ford engineer that they are secretly opening up buffer, and I don't know how they would do it because the way they do their OTAs, it makes no sense. So, and honestly, remember, this is one of the things that they're kind of saying that's coming with the e-box of next generation. So that kind of tells me right there that they don't have the current capability to do that. That's just my guess.
I think after all of the work with Everdrive that Zach and I have done, it is possible to crack more into the higher numbers. We've looked at it hard enough now. It can be done. It's going to take a lot of work, and you're now playing with Everdrive. You're not playing with fire because we're just letting you charge like you do at home. When you start using more of the battery, like Tesla does, you're now playing with the upper ends and the lower ends of that BMS management, and you can start messing things up. But it's no different than taking your 97 F-150 and supercharging it and tuning it. You're risking things. So the aftermarket is going to happen eventually for all EVs. We just haven't seen much tuning to either up voltages add packs. There's going to be things that we can do in the performance world to make these faster or more range, but it's like everything else. There's risk and reward. So that's going to be the thing.
I wanted to bring up, I brought it up briefly there, but I wanted to bring up, this is one of the, when I went and made the thumbnail for the video that I did, this is where I kind of got the inspiration, was this, which came from Ford. This is a screenshot that they, kind of provided. Now,
somebody pointed out to me, I think they thought he was writing on, he is writing on paper with an expo marker, which I kind of thought was funny.
It is. It's a dry erase marker.
But it is. Wasn't there a dry erase board behind him?
There's some undertones to that.
Funny.
I think that means this can change. This is not set in stone. I think they did that on purpose.
So it is funny, right? Because they, at no point do they say this is the shape or this is the truck, or these could be a number of different iterations or drawings. This could have zero resemblance to anything.
Which is true about the platform too. I mean, we know it's going to be a mid-sized truck first, but Ford has said again and again that this is planned. They haven't said how many, but I think we've heard up to 5, 6, 7 are possible. So, and on all sorts of different.
But look at that configuration. Look at that blue truck and that cars picture there. If it looks like that, I'm going to buy one just on the looks.
I mean, it's got kind of a blunt nose. It's got some flared fenders. It's got.
So did you see my tweet today about all of that? Because I thought that was fascinating. I've heard Doug Field say it. I'm not sure if Jim Farley has said it. And I've also heard Alan Clark say it. And they all said that this vehicle needs to look good. It needs to tug at the heartstrings. And that Alan was talking about this in Tom's interview, that it's extraordinarily difficult. Yeah. It's extraordinarily difficult to kind of do both of those at the same, make it super aerodynamically efficient and also make it look good. And so that's why Ford had, I think they've quoted more than half of their aerodynamics team is from Formula One, and that they really were working hard on making the vehicle look good, but also like making quick iterations, which was really cool. They've utilized aero rakes if anybody's familiar out there with the world of Formula One, they put aero rakes on the front and the back of Formula One cars to see how the air comes over the vehicle, and they can get all sorts of data from those sensors and put that into, things and change things. The cool part about the Ford team is they're using 3D printers. They showed that off in the pictures. If you look in the background, that was one of the things that I didn't see a lot of people point out. In one of the pictures, you can see the 3D parts and the whatever you call it. What's the stuff that you use to make the stuff, Martin? The material.
Filament or resin?
Filament. Yes, thank you. Yeah, you can see that in the background. So it's really cool that they're literally using like wind tunnels with aero rakes and then quickly iterating and putting a new part on it.
You can do that digitally now. We do that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So
and I think they're doing that as well.
Fluid dynamics, and air is a fluid. So you can do that all digitally, and then you go prove it in the wind tunnel. It helps the acceleration to market way better because our software now has gotten so good. They can see where the inefficiencies are digitally before they ever build the first one.
Now,
it's super cool.
The interesting things, about these pictures to me is this this middle right one almost looks a little bit like Tello to me. Like this, and then this one that's closer to the bottom almost has like hints of Cybertruck to it.
I think it looks more like the Rev concept. Do you guys remember the Ram Rev concept truck?
Yep.
If they would have built that, to me, if the Cybertruck was the Ram Rev concept, I don't know because of the cost, but I think it would have sold 10 times better.
So I don't know. These could be all just out of left field, conceptual, nothing like what this.
One of those sitting there could be the design. We have no idea, and that's kind of the fun part about it.
And I think that's what's cool about he is an expo. I first saw this picture, I was like, oh, that's an innuendo.
Yeah. Now the wind tunnel thing is fascinating to me, only because there's two things that I thought of when I was watching the video of the wind tunnels and the idea of, Formula One. And one is, I did a tonneau cover experiment where I took it and went to the Central Valley and I drove, and there was the whole debate. Does a tonneau cover help your aero and efficiency or not? And there was a video I found of a Ford engineer, and they said they took a tonneau cover to the wind tunnel and they did it, and they had changed some aero with the back tailgate with a little spoiler and all these other things, right? And they had talked about how that they showed in a wind tunnel that you could get aerodynamic efficiencies with a tonneau cover, and they showed a certain improvement. And this was with a gas vehicle, by the way, at the time. And I put that clip of this Ford engineer saying that there was efficiencies. And then I took a Mythbusters video where they said, no, what happens is you get a burble of air in the bed, and efficiency, that bubble of air just kind of makes the airflow go off the bubble of air at a certain speed, and you don't get any efficiency gain. Practically, it doesn't really make a difference. And then I took and I did a run with the tonneau cover, and I did a run without the tonneau cover, and it near as made no difference at all. I mean, and so because in real life,
Chris, I ran to Florida on my trip without the tonneau cover, and I felt like it made a difference. Not much, but a little bit.
Yeah, it's so.
Well, and I think that's the point, though, Chris, is that, and this is what I've kind of, just gathered from watching it all, is that it's more about those incremental improvements across the board, right? So they're saying like, okay, so with the mirror, they took 2 actuators and made it into one, which made the mirror assembly 20% smaller. And that, allowed for, what was it? I think a 4.5, or was that, I think the mirror was 1.5 mile gain. Then you add that with the floor changes that they made, and hiding the rear wheels behind the front wheels so that they're out of the wind wake. That alone was like responsible for 4.5 miles. So I think like what they're trying to say is all of these combined add up to, what their quote was, 15% more efficient than any pickup on the road today, including EVs, from what my knowledge is, and 30% better efficiency at highway speeds than I believe a mid-size gas equivalent truck. So,
and they talked about the
really
back wheels
combinations.
They talked about the back wheels being like aerodynamically hidden behind the front wheels.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Ford is known for doing these little tricks where they had taken, for example, the Mach-E's back handle, if you remember, was aerodynamically hidden behind the mirror of the Mach-E, where it even though it stuck out, that little handle, it didn't matter because the way that aerodynamically
and they don't have a back handle, which I added on ours. It made zero difference.
They actually added a back handle for the 2026 year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's back.
It is.
So there's
it was a common complaint.
We bought them on for ours.
That they've done.
It's awesome.
So I think, but my thing with that though is what we've seen with the Lucid Gravity, for example, is that they design incredible efficiencies in a vehicle like that, but then it makes it incredibly susceptible to elements and elevations and winds. So I'm curious.
I will agree, but I will say the one thing that I think will make the biggest difference that they talked about, but didn't say like this is what it, saves range wise, because you can't really compare, but is weight. Weight will, cure all of that. I mean, there's 4,000 less feet of wire and 22 pounds less heavy than I believe that was the Mach-E is what they're comparing that to.
I hear you.
Do you think that'll translate though? Because there's also been a number of videos that have shown that weight doesn't make nearly any difference.
At the level that they're saving, yes, only because you're talking a 50 kilowatt hour battery, which is what Alan sort of mentioned today to Tom. So if you're talking that much less weight, possibly, yeah. And with the unicasting and the efficiencies all added up, I mean, they're targeting 30 or 300 miles of range plus, with our, the latest estimates like a 50 kilowatt, 60 kilowatt hour battery. That'd be insane.
It's gonna be
I don't think
it's
gonna happen.
Test this thing.
You know why that you know why I think that's not gonna happen? Is the biggest thing I think we're looking at there is that we have that's a 6 mile per kilowatt. I don't see how that can be possible, right?
I don't know. I mean, it's gonna be fascinating to see. That's sort of what the targets are. And Alan said there will be different configurations. So there will be
different
an all-wheel drive,
sizes.
Yep, there will be different battery sizes. And in fact, there will be, Tom said this, is LFP really truly like the, golden ticket that you guys, think you wanted to use for this vehicle? And Alan said no. If we could choose something else, we probably maybe would, but there are certain durabilities that are built in for LFP that they want to utilize. The way that they were able to prismatically structure it and make it, part of the floor. So yeah, I mean, I think this is sort of their very first product, and we're going to see more coming. I think we'll see those sodium
Yeah.
batteries coming. I think really though, it's all about like that cost factor and how much cheaper it is to be able to produce this vehicle. And they've said again and again, this is not going to be a basic vehicle. So that I take that as you're still going to have heated seats. You're still going to have. Alan talked about that again on Tom's thing today. Your basic features customers want. They're not willing to lose certain things because they're paying $30,000. So Ford is really hammering home that they think they can save the amount of costs out of the battery and the manufacturing process, as well as really even the entire design of it, and that will translate to profitability on this product. Will it happen? I don't know, but that's they're really hammering it home.
I do think the LFP is a big part of what's going to make this an important product, though.
Probably the biggest key to it all.
Yeah, I think for two reasons, in my opinion. One is the cost. I think that's important. I think, but I think, and maybe this is just my bias, but man,
real quick, if people don't know, just real quick, Chris, if people don't know, the battery is going to be made in Marshall, Michigan. It's an LFP battery, Ford licensed CATL technology. That's why it's going to be so cheap and why it's so big, because nobody really domestically produces LFP, especially at that scale currently in North America. People are working on it very quickly, but it's not quite there yet. And so this would be the first huge step in that direction. So just so if people don't know.
Yeah, and I was really excited by them talking about LFP, because that is what most of China is using, is LFP. That is where CATL has just some incredible.
Yeah, I did not realize that 80% of China cars are LFP right now, which is I guess I did not know that.
Most all your lithium in the non-automotive world is lithium iron phosphate. The Life PO4 they call it. It's a trade name, but the lithium iron phosphate just doesn't have the risk that you have with NMC. And I think once we start getting the solid state more mainstream and they bring the cost down, it's going to help. But right now, LFP is the thing. And tariffs are playing a huge factor into why that's being made here. Huge factor right now. We in my corporate job, we fight that every day. And a lot of stuff's coming back to America for that reason, because we can build it cheaper here now.
I just think that's so important to the secret sauce of this. And I think the LFP is part of having that exportable AC power to the house and the ability to act as both energy storage and transportational energy. I think that is key, to have the life duty cycles.
That's exactly what Alan mentioned. And they really, I think, want to buy into that, especially in places like where you are, Chris, where people are already sort of doing it, but also I think where we are too. I mean, heck, we can do it. We have the ability, not in a bi-directional, with our automatic system way, but we have a manual way to power the home if we needed to. And I think they really do want to buy into that.
My electric rate from midnight to 3 p.m. is 28 cents per kilowatt hour.
Oh my gosh.
But at 6 p.m. right now, it's 60 cents per kilowatt hour. So right now, I'm running
both of them are still high where I come from, but it's crazy.
So, if you think about, and this was a big thing about the Lightning, but it's just never worked, because I don't have that great way to use my Lightning battery in this way. But this truck potentially could be this. When you think about a Powerwall that costs $10,000 to $12,000 to get and to install, imagine if your car is only $30,000, $35,000, even $40,000 after tax, license, fee. You have some upgrades, whatever it is, right?
Oh yeah, bigger battery,
Platinum series.
And you're talking about a 50 to 60 kilowatt hour battery at $40,000, let's say, and I can bi-directionally charge from my house, and I can charge this thing up and then run my house from when the time I get home to midnight, and then have it recharge starting at midnight to the time I go to work, and then run that cycle for energy arbitrage I mean, there's so many value propositions there, and to do that cycle and to be able to do that with my, I mean, where I am, that's a
Yeah.
huge deal.
And Ford is realizing that. I mean, Alan was talking about that, right? Like, this is an huge untapped potential for the automotive industry in the United States. Like, nobody's done it. People are looking, sort of, putting their foot out, okay, we can kind of here and there do it. It's $10,000 to install the system and it doesn't really work, well, right? Like, but, the Sunrun system has had a lot of issues, right?
Yep.
But, the ideas are there and more people are jumping on. And Ford actually had a huge acquisition, which I kind of flew under the radar. I didn't really even remember it, but automotive, two separate words, power, three separate words, really, automotive power was a big acquisition they made in, I believe it was 2013 or 2023. And this guy that was did all the work on in that company is right up there on this UEV platform now, and he's responsible for he's the e-box manager, I guess is his exact title, I believe. And he's kind of created this box that really I haven't seen anybody quite match anything like that I've seen. I think Rivian kind of had something similar, but not quite to that. I don't think it handled as many functions that the Ford system does. So yeah, here's the e-box. It's pretty cool. Is that the playable one, or is that just a picture?
Yeah, I thought I could play it, but I guess I can't play it. I guess it's just a yeah, I don't know how
It's
to play
somewhere
it.
on my Twitter too, if you want to find it. But yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's a cool little thing, and I think we'll learn more and more about that. But too, I think that is also going to be responsible for the AI and in the inside knowledge inside the battery, and it being able to dynamically control charge rates over the life of the battery, the lifespan, and for degradation and stuff. And yeah, it should be pretty awesome. And then of course the zonal architecture, right? So Ford's going from like, I don't know, it's like 30 to 40. I don't know exactly how many in the Lightning. You might know, Marty, how many modules are in the Lightning, but they're going from basically like 30 to 40 in the average car down to 5 main, what they call powerful modules.
Well, I hope they're going to a singular Ethernet, all on one bus. Right now, the Lightning has at least 3 different CAN bus networks, the F-150. It's making it incredibly difficult for even Zach and I to integrate Everdrive into the truck, which we're doing, so that it feels seamless. We don't want it to buy this Magix box and plug it into your OBD2 port and have all this extra crap. We don't want any of that to be there, but it's incredibly difficult with the way it's set up right now, because it's like you can feel that there was different teams working on it, APIM and on the IPC, and these are modules in the truck. It's really difficult.
Yeah, I think that that's a big part of what they're trying to do, and it's interesting to watch Ford try to balance everything, where they've got their primary brain, which has been brought in house. Now they do still have some third-party modules. They've had to maintain those relationships with some of their accessory modules that they have, but their primary.
I'm not
brain is
sure
brought in.
UAV will have those third-party modules though.
Oh, really?
Well, I hope Garmin navigation.
I'm not sure about UEV. Now,
Garmin.
eRev and those I could see possibly. I'm not positive
okay.
that. I believe all 5. I could be wrong, but I believe all 5 will be in-house. I could be wrong.
Interesting.
All 5?
That would be great.
I believe so.
Okay.
Elaborate.
I could maybe
There's
find
5
out.
vehicles coming. Is what you're read somewhere. There's 5 vehicles coming.
Yeah, no, what I was referring to, there was
modules.
all 5 of the main
modules.
Yeah, it's going to be
okay.
5
I was thinking, wait a minute.
modules,
There's 5. Yeah. We know there's a multi-vehicle platform, but we didn't know how many and what and all that.
Yeah,
yet.
I expect at least probably 5 or 6. We don't know, but yeah, that's sort of what they've hinted at. So, but yeah, I believe all 5 of those modules are in house. Well, I'll see if I can find out more about that. But that's kind of what I got from the video as well. But that doesn't mean that things could still change. And I think they're still trying to figure that all out. But yeah, from what I understand, I believe they are. But any chance we get Blue Cruise 1.5 on a no, we don't believe that will happen.
Out there.
Maybe like Blue Cruise 1.5 Lite or something like that. But
Yeah. No,
Yeah, my
but
understanding
honestly,
is Mach
here,
E has it, but they had to
yeah,
upgrade their hardware, and it's only the
yeah,
newest Mach E. The older Mach E's can't get it either. So,
yeah, we have an
um,
older one. But I tell
right.
you, if you're looking for something that's as Blue Cruise as you can get, it's I kind of don't want to push this too hard, but comma AI is phenomenal and it's on every road. And for me, that's huge because I don't have any Blue Cruise roads within 100 miles of me, 50, 75 miles of me. So that's going to be $1,000 one time. You put it in and you've got it. It's a game changer for the guys who want to run hands free. And now it's not FSD. It will never be FSD. But it is, if you're going on a long straight road with curves, it's awesome. I mean, for those that have Blue Cruise 1.4 with lane change assist and stuff, we know that works really well. But comma is I will do that, and the main reason we have a Mach-E and a Lightning, and I'm going to probably have more Lightnings or something. Anything that has hands-free capability, you can run comma in. You buy one $100 harness per car, and I'm rounding numbers here, and then $1,000 setup, and you can take it from car to car. Pop it in the
And
Lightning.
they'll run deals, I think, on that setup too. I've seen
Yeah,
like them run like Black Friday deals on the
yeah.
device that runs it and
So
stuff.
I don't I
Brandon
haven't
Flash says it does stoplights now. True too. Is that true?
I think so. Jason can. I need to get with Jason and ask him because he did tow with it. I don't want to incriminate him, but you don't have the 80-mile-an-hour speed limit. I can tell you
Man,
that
that'd be so nice. That'd
it
be
will
so
go
nice. The
over
Blue
80.
Cruise in tow.
Yeah, you and well, I'm doing that now, and I can tell you guys I've been testing that for a while. I'll just talk about it. I have rewired my Lightning to Blue Cruise while towing, and after extensive testing, I know why Ford doesn't do it. Because anything over a light load, you get back end heavy and the truck wants to walk around. The tuning is not there for Blue Cruise. Unlike Chevy's, I've tried it. And so like when I'm pulling my boat and it's 3,500 pounds, my bass boat, all the way to Canada and back, Blue Cruise the whole way. And I'm not going to go into how I rewired it. If somebody wants to figure it out, I'm not going to get somebody else hurt because they don't, you know. But when you get over that weight rating, like I tried to run it, pulling to Florida, a Mustang over Thanksgiving, and back the Mach-E. My daughter had our wife's Mach-E down there, and we pulled it back. Both directions, I tried to run it, and you get that sway in the back end. It's not comfortable. Now, would it do it? Yes, but I completely understand why they don't with the current software levels and tech. So we were not going to have towing with Blue Cruise probably on this generation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
that actually leads into if you guys want to do it. Sorry to interrupt you, Marty, if you want to finish your thought, but I was just going to say that leads into kind of the conversation. I put another tweet out earlier today because I think, or maybe it was yesterday, that people kind of a lot of people didn't see the CES, which we haven't really talked about a lot either, about the CES show, that keynote that Ford did essentially, and it was Doug Field as opposed to Alan, and he talked a lot more about ADAS and sort of what their thoughts were. He also was asked about FSD, which I'll get into in a second because I thought that was a fascinating conversation. But so basically, long story short, the UEV platform is actually going to, a la Rivian, actually, is going to be the debut for Ford's latest and greatest ADAS, which I would not have expected. That's very different direction that Ford went in previously. They F-150 was Blue Cruise enabled pretty quickly, which was not the case with Chevy, right? It was hard to find a vehicle that had Super Cruise. Ford, really, most of their vehicles have Blue Cruise now, minus Bronco and some of the cheaper
lower trim
nameplates.
level.
So yeah, and Maverick, even no matter how high you go, is just not offered. So it's interesting that is the direction that they decided to go, but they've said they brought it all in house, and that I believe the quote is that they can save 30%, comparative to a third party solution, like NVIDIA or the FSD, maybe other ones that are coming out now. And I thought that was really, really interesting. So, so that'll debut the next version of, if it's Blue Cruise, whatever they call it, that will debut with the midsize truck. But then on the same midsize truck in 2028, so just a year later, they say that they're going to, as of right now, the plans are to release eyes off L3, level 3, hands free, eyes off driving. So that's fascinating. I did not see that coming. I thought that would debut, on a F-150 or something like that, or even maybe Everdrive Lightning. But they're doing it on the latest and greatest. And then, so real quick though, the funny so the presenter asked Doug Field what his thoughts were on FSD, and would Ford ever consider licensing FSD? And Doug kind of, he's from Tesla, so he's very familiar with the product, and not to put words in his mouth, but essentially said that he's tried it and it's an amazing product for what it is, but I think Ford has a certain market that, and standard that they're looking for. And he said, 95% of the time FSD is great, but it's that 5% that is not quite there yet for Ford to license FSD. And I think that's sort of similar to what we've seen from, well, every other single manufacturer in the world, right? Nobody is currently interested in licensing or manufacture or using FSD in their vehicles as of now. Elon's kind of hinted at it, that maybe people are interested, but that did not obviously come to fruition at all yet. So
Well,
fascinating.
That's interesting, coming from their current platform with Blue Cruise, which is not comparable to Tesla's FSD. We can't even get it to not slam on the brakes when somebody's turning in front of you and then wait 4 seconds to accelerate after they've turned. That's what we deal with Blue Cruise. And I'm not complaining, because I love it. But as a highway, Tesla had enhanced autopilot in 2015 in the Model S. That's what Blue Cruise is like. I've ran 5,000 miles in a Model S with enhanced autopilot and the Lightning. They are very comparable technologies.
So I go through, and I did a video. So shout out to me. Go and watch the video that I did about a month ago, and I talk about some of the challenges of affordable EVs and where I think Ford was going with this exact platform that I talked about a month ago. And I talk about I went to the Greenfield Labs where all this stuff is developed, and Blue Cruise, and I talk about all these things that we're seeing today. I talked about this a month ago, and I talked about this exact thing, the CES announcement, and I go through here and talk about how they're trying to democratize this type of stuff and the difference in approach. And I talked that this is the main module here that I talk about, that they're developed in-house, the brain, right, if you will. This is all the stuff they talked about at CES. The next gen Blue Cruise, and I talked about how go and watch this video, like if you are kind of wanting to understand the difference in approach between Tesla and Ford. And they talk about level 3 eyes off driving, and there was a whole big thing about this where the guy from Australia, man, what's that guy's name? He was trying to say that like Ford didn't know the difference between level 3 and level 4, and no, this is just a difference in Ford's conservative approach, and where Tesla is very much like, just go let humans be a guinea pig and let them be our alpha and beta testers out there. Ford is very much conservative in their approach. And so I go through and I talk about how Ford's approach is point-to-point navigation that is monitored. Right? They're going to allow you to do navigation from door to door, but not eyes off. But they will allow you to do level 3 eyes off on the highway. But that is level 3, not level 4. The difference being that at level 3, you are still responsible to recover in an emergency. And in level 4, the vehicle is responsible to recover in an emergency. And that is a big distinction for Ford. And so in that regard, Ford will say, hey, you can watch a video, you can text message, but we are going to alert you in some way, and then you are expected to recover if something is going on in that automation. But they're projecting, according to CES, 2028 is when they're looking for that to occur. But they're going to put all the hardware and the ability to do that in the vehicles in 27, but their software won't catch up to that for 28.
Which is
About
kind of what I
4
really
years behind
was,
Tesla.
which is what I wanted to go into with the electrified overlanding question is that's what another thing that we heard from Alan a lot in Tom's interview, but also in the videos and other things, that they are future proofing this product to like the max, the UEV. There is future proofing in the battery, there's future proofing in the software, there's future proofing in the modules, there's future proof, like he named it all out. And that is not obviously what happened, with Lightning and Mach-E, right? Like this was, and they did all right, it's not like they're horrible. They did decent OTAs. They're still working on those OTAs now, but we know that RAM is limited. There's only a certain amount of space that we have in the Lightning now, and it just simply, it's at its limit, right? We're not going to get Ford Digital Experience or something like that. So, it's cool though that this time around Ford has the team in place that is Tesla-esque. I mean, they're former Tesla, all of them pretty much. They're all former Tesla. So they're, they have the right team in place now to make the right decision, but under a Ford lens, right? Which is, I think, what we have to remember, which I think there'll be pros to that and there'll probably be cons to that, right? There's going to be good to that and bad. It's going to be a different approach. And I think we've seen that, right? That there's been, the prismatic LFP cell. I think it's like a perfect example. That's so Fordy to me. I don't know if you guys agree, but like, to me, that is quintessential Ford. Like, license the technology and then do it the Ford way. Ford did that with the Lightning pack. It's a Ford version of that pack. There's certain Ford standards that they wanted to uphold in that pack. And I see the same exact thing happening.
When you think about like the Maxxis DCS adapter, they had very, very conservative, very, very thorough, very safe. Not that these are bad things, right? But they are very purposeful, very, just very thorough in their testing and everything that they do. And so
we see the Lightning, no deg. I mean, I think that's exactly, we don't see degradation on these packs. I think that's a perfect example, right? Of, they signed off
parasitic drain. There's no, there's a number of ways that presents itself in a beneficial way. And then there's ways that can sometimes be frustrating. Like people are just now getting their 500 amp charge curve. And sometimes that can be frustrating, but on the other end, there's it is an interesting thing where you have so many recalls and so many light bar problems, and on one hand you've got those reliability issues, but then on the other, man, that truck is so rock solid in so many other ways. It is an interesting,
because it's built Ford tough, right? It's an F-150 at its heart, but there's those tug and those pulls with the tech that didn't quite catch up, but it's good enough for most, but it's still not latest and greatest, and EVs really should be probably your latest and greatest, right? Or at least that's what you'd think. So
Brandon is staying with the Lightning for at least a little while. He gets it. It's not the best tech truck. It's not the best. It's not a Rivian. It's not a Cybertruck, but it's still.
But you don't have to. How many Rivian friends do you have that are like, oh, I was driving down the highway and the screen went black, and I had to, and they're like, oh, do a hard reset. And we don't have that, right? I mean, occasionally maybe, the screen doesn't turn on or something, but it's so rare.
Go ahead and try to change a Rivian 12-volt battery. I dare you.
Yeah.
I dare you.
It's fun.
But
try to,
and if you wanted them to do it, they'll charge you a nickel and dime. I mean, it's crazy. The one quote I saw was $750 for the one to get, because he had two, which is not the thing anymore, but I believe certain Gen 1s had two 12 volts, and it was $750
so you can deal with that,
replaced.
Or a Lightning battery that goes bad every 2 years for $130. I mean, take your pick.
3 minutes to swap with no clearing of codes needed. Yeah, you might need to reset the BMS real quick. Some people don't even do that, and it's still fine.
I mean, I upgraded. I was going to talk about that tonight. I didn't know if we'd have time, but I upgraded my battery. Chris, the one that
I saw that. That makes me very curious.
Was a 50 amp hour battery from a 35 amp hour battery, and I don't know if you knew that's out of a Maverick or Escape hybrid.
The one that I sent you.
Battery. You would not have been able to put that in your truck. It doesn't fit.
That's hilarious.
But
it
does fit with an oscillating tool and a little bit of trimming of those tabs on the left and right tray. Just those tabs are literally there to make a smaller battery fit. They're not structural to that tray. So I've been telling guys, if you want a little more battery, don't buy the lithium. We've seen the problems there. Number one thing that lithium does is the charge curve inside the onboard charger of the truck does not match that. That's
Are you
not
talking
a
about
Ford
that?
thing.
What's that thing called? The expensive
Oomu or
Ohmu lithium. There's a lot of
Ohmu,
lithium batteries that fit
I don't
the
want to get off
Lightning.
topic, man, but
Ohmu's-
I've seen, I don't know. Do you think those things are catching on fire? Because I've seen a couple pictures, man.
The one in the
They-
Lightning
they're
group caught on
not-
fire.
yeah.
The guy's Lightning.
They're
They
not
caught the
catching
whole
on
truck
fire any more than Lightnings catch on fire. What
And
they're
did
not,
you hear what happened? Ohmu made a statement. What happened
Okay.
is the guy, it died 4 times, and the guy dead charged
Oh,
it
and he
4
force
times,
charged
and then
it.
the 4th time a cell in there failed. And it really actually didn't even spread to the other cells. It was a pretty contained thing, but it was not good regardless. And they didn't get the worst part is they didn't get back to him because it was like a holiday weekend, and so he had asked him to, you know, I can't, it died, like, and they didn't get back to him because of the holiday weekend, so he kept trying to dead charge it, and then that led to
I have one here that won't wake up. It's under 2 volts. I can't get it to wake up. And Ohmu did not respond. I mean, they were telling us to do this and this and this. We were doing these things.
Yes.
I couldn't get warranty. This was for a Tesla, a Model S, but it sits over on the bench as a little paperweight and a reminder that I'm not going to buy one now from that. And I'm not knocking Ohmu but here, the bottom line with Ohmu is not the risk of fire. Any lithium battery takes a different charge curve. They charge at a different rate. They don't have this gradual like AGM or regular lead acid. It's a flatter curve. It's a different charge curve. Now, if somebody out there will figure out how to change the charge curve to charge that battery better, okay. But right now, stick with the AGM battery that Ford's producing, or bump up to a little bit bigger cell battery and reset the BMS. Now, I've had a couple guys that tell me that even with the extended capacity, the truck's not going to charge it correctly. Well, that's not true. The charge curve is the same. It's just got more to go. And I've had it in there now for about 3 months and have not had a state of health under 90. It's maintained. I've seen 100% on road trips like we always do. In the cold day, we had some 0-degree days here for many days in a row. And I saw some 55 to 65. But the crazy thing is the truck doesn't maintain the damn battery when it's off. It doesn't use the DC to DC converter like Tesla does. Tesla will drain its high voltage battery when you're not even near the car to keep that 12 volt up. If the Lightning would do that, we probably would see parasitic loss. So Chris, like you mentioned a minute ago, there's pros and cons. Do you want your 12 volt to die, or do you want your big battery to die? I mean, energy is energy. If you're trying to use energy to maintain and keep itself safe, it's got to come from somewhere.
Which that's why I'm excited, to be honest, though. Like we all just were kind of talking. That's what makes me excited is I see sort of like, you know, we see people complain about, you know, OTAs of the Lightning and you know the ice stuff that's built in, right? You pop the frunk and the climate turns off. You only have 2 remote starts, you know, these little things, right? But they add up. I get it. You know, if you're coming especially from a Tesla, you know, and I get it. I don't think it bothers most people, but again, you know, I see even the ice guys complain about 2 remote starts, you know, so there's certain things that are just inherent to the system, but there are certain things that EVs probably should do that, you know, like popping the frunk and the climate not turning off, you know, that's definitely something that should happen. But I get it, you know, the hood pops, you know, it all makes sense, right? But that is what I'm excited about, is that we kind of got Tesla guys, we do old Tesla guys, right? The best of the best, really, that are now in the Ford system. So they can kind of fix those, hopefully at least, fix those little bugs that, you know, that come from the Ford Blue side, that old mentality, right? But mix it with the new mentality and how things should be done, you know, unicast things and with these types of vehicles, right? And so that's kind of what gets me excited, is I hope that these minds can come together. And Alan has talked about that a few times too, and Doug, like they know that like there's a Ford way to do it. You know, we're not, yes, we're applying Tesla-esque knowledge, but we're doing it in the Ford way. And I think that's important. Because being around Ford a lot, seeing the people that are in that company, they really do. There is like a Ford way of doing things. There is like a Ford family, you know, it is a family company, and for as big of a company that it really is.
You can
know,
feel
there's
that.
still like
You can feel that across all their lines. You get in a Ford and you go get in a Chevy, or you go get in a Hyundai, you can feel. That's why I've been a 40-year Ford fan, because it from 1997 and the first F-150 that I've rebuilt to now, it's the theory, the way they do things has not changed in the core. Now, the peripherals and stuff around it, the Lightning is completely different from a 97 Ford F-150, but they still do things in the Ford way.
Yeah, and another thing they've talked about too is that they want it to be fun to drive. Like a Ford should be fun to drive. I think, the Mach-E, we saw that, maybe it's not everybody's cup of tea, but like it's a fun vehicle to drive.
It's more
Especially for
fun than a
like
Tesla.
a
I can tell you that.
a chunky EV like SUV, it drives really well and it drives really fun. And Lightning drives really well. So I think that's important to Ford too.
What do you think? You had mentioned about the modules that you thought that all 5 modules might be in-house modules, and that made me reflect back on the interview with Tom Malogny, where Alan had mentioned that the team had been allowed to focus from the moment he arrived, that they had been allowed to focus on this vehicle the whole time, and that surprised me, to be honest. That so presumably. I had assumed that this group had some involvement with T3 and had pivoted over to this project, and that sounded like it wasn't.
Doug may have, because Doug is the overseer of it all, right? So
Of
like,
all of it.
and Doug came along, in my opinion, I think or to my knowledge, a little bit earlier than Alan did. But yeah, Alan and his whole team, they strictly were involved in just UEV, to my knowledge, and from what they have said, that they did not, they were not involved in T3. But I think we have to remember sort of how it all sort of like the timing of it all, right? Like it was kind of wild how it all took place. Like we were talking about T3 in 2022, 2023, because Ford still genuinely thought, I think, Lightning was going to be this sales killer, right? And then the way that everything just happened so quickly, but also in combination with, the administration and the legality regulation changes, I think it just all hit so fast that there was like no way for his company as big as Ford and others, right, to even Tesla, to like keep up with what was going on. And so there were pivot, like we talked about before, there's like pivot after pivot, and they probably had like 3 backup pivots. But I think what happened, and this is what after watching it all, and now we're getting to meet everybody, right? I think what happened is there was a bet within the company. It didn't have to be a crazy big bet, right? It sounds crazy, but like for Ford, they could throw 1 billion at something, and that's a tiny bet, right? Extremely tiny. So they threw 1 billion at Doug Field, at Alan and his team in California. They said, you can live where you want, you can work where you want. This is what we want you to do. Go do it. No Ford oversight, right? And that includes manufacturing. That includes the whole process. Go do it. And I think they started to love what they saw. But at the same time, I think those regulations and stuff like we've talked about that have changed also lended its hand to what product the team happened to be building, which was an affordable EV. And there's not just a rush to affordability in EVs, right? There's a rush to affordability in all cars right now. There's a rush in really everything, right? Like not just cars. Everybody wants to be more affordable because that's where the marketplace is going. People aren't buying Lariats, they're buying XLTs again. They're buying, STX trims again. Dealers will tell you people are looking for a deal now and a cheaper car payment. They're not looking for a $1,200 car payment. So things are starting to change, and I think it ended up just working out in good timing with the Skunkworks team, and boom.
Yeah, I'm curious how. Man, I would love to hear some of these stories. I always wish Ford was more transparent with it, because it's interesting to hear that T3 and the affordable EV were kind of on parallel evolutions, and that they were, I would just love to understand. Like
my guess though is Ford was looking at T3 starting in probably 2020, 2021. If you look at the timeline for Lightning, right? Lightning was ready at 19 is when the first demo was done, so that tells you they were, we saw the truck, so that tells you that how far along they were in 2019, and then they really just had to get the rest done. It's crazy.
I just wonder how much of this, if it does well, will maybe change their approach to the EREV and
Mhm. I've
even
asked
to
that
the
question
gas.
to everybody that I can think of.
Yeah, I would love to see that. I would love to see a platform that is more internal. That because ultimately, man, my hope is that if you do the EREV, it's as simple as removing the rev part of it and throwing
Mhm.
a bigger battery pack in. And
Remember, that's Doug Field running that though, and I would be shocked if he isn't. And look at what they're doing to UEV, talking about future proofing. I would be shocked if that wasn't taking place with the EREV. That would be very surprising to me. Now, my only worry about all of that would be retooling, and that they wouldn't want to spend like, because it's a lot of money to, Alan was kind of talking about it today, to die cat, to build those dies and to do all those things. There's a lot of expenditure to it, the alloys that are involved, whatever, right? So what I worry is they're going to build EREV at the Rev Center in Detroit, in Dearborn, right? So it's going to be built where Lightning was built. How much retooling do they need to do to that Lightning plant? Can it be retooled for a unicasting style vehicle? I don't
can
know.
you
I don't know.
unicast a truck? Well, you unicasted Cybertruck,
Sure,
so I guess you could.
sure.
So
And they
yeah,
unicast. It's not unicast, but it's unibody is Maverick. So I'm sure it could be. So it's a little different, but it could be scaled up, I think. Um, I don't know. I think, but then yeah, do you want body on frame? Are you looking for Are you looking for a true unicast? Are you looking for a unibody? What's your next? I don't know. And like you said, could you just remove? Because I think at this point, I didn't think so for a while, but now that I think about it, I think we're losing the frunk on EREV Lightning. I think there's no way that they get around it.
I don't know how you're going to
Um,
not. I've
yeah,
been dealing with that. We haven't got to Everdrive, but Zach and I have been dealing with that exact issue of where to put this generator for 2 years. And the frunk is the logical place. The problem is you lose the frunk. And Zach and I refuse to bury a generator in the frunk of the Lightning. And we could.
Yep.
And you could have it all the
Yep.
time. And we could probably put a big one up there where we're building a true EREV Lightning out of the current Lightning. I'm not doing that to guys. I'm not going to release a product I don't believe in.
well, it's interesting. If you look at Scout, Scout, I think, has suddenly realized, they 80% or something of their orders were EREV. Then I think there's the reality of their EREV had it in the back in the tail
Spare
of
tire.
Correct.
the spare tire, but then that cut their towing in half, which
Yep.
I'm not sure everybody
5,000.
realized.
Yeah.
That cuts me out of the order right there. I'm out.
But I don't think a
Yeah.
lot of reservation holders realized that. And then I think Scout started questioning everything from a technical aspect, and then they've just delayed the Scout for an entire year to 28.
Which Scout says it's not true, but
It's not out yet either.
yeah.
And here's the thing:
Neither is the Rev, by the way.
you know what I've noticed is that every time one of these companies insists that something isn't true, 6 months later, it's true. Like almost without
bad
fail.
press is good press.
And so it's like
VW's got a lot of issues.
Because here's the thing: is Scout. The rumor that Scout was not going to come out with the BEV and that they were getting a whole bunch of EREV orders came out like 6 months before it was confirmed by Scout that was going to happen. And the rumor of the Lightning being canceled came out months before the Lightning was canceled. And rumors of like Ford working with a Chinese company, even though they got the company wrong because they said it was I don't remember. They said it was Xiaomi, but it turned out to be Geely. Came out, and then they were all insistent that it wasn't happening, and then it turned out they had a bunch of deals with Geely. Like I don't know why they're so indignant about this stuff, and then it turns out to be true. It's like, just come on, guys. Like nobody cares. Just
Well, I think the Xiaomi thing was Ford's probably reaction because they didn't want Geely to think that they were also talking to Xiaomi, right? So they noticed they came out with a statement right away, and they were like, "Nope, that's not
right.
Nope, not at all."
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, why not? They all have great technology. Embrace it. Partner with these guys. I was excited.
Well, and I think that, but I will say that. So we were talking about it earlier, but that is, I think why we mentioned that LFP plant in Marshall, Michigan is the key to it all. And we've seen that because Ford has fought tooth and nail to keep that plant alive. And there have
They
been
got a lot of pushback
many,
early.
many, a lot. And even still, it's still getting pushback, Chris, in the state of Michigan. It's still being taken to the Supreme Court. People do not, for various reasons, because it's a battery plant, because it's the Chinese, licensing, because of whatever. Marshall, the state or the town themselves are fighting against it. I mean, it is
So
crazy.
crazy.
But what told me that it's so important is that how hard Ford has fought to make sure that this plant stays alive, that this
And
is crucial.
And it's like people don't understand. LFP was invented in America, and it was developed on American universities, and then the patent expired. China took it. They evolved the heck out of it, and now we're just relicensing back our own technology, which is a shame, and putting it right back where it belongs in America so we can manufacture it. Tesla uses this stuff for energy storage. Ford is going to be the first to use it for vehicle. Man, I love LFP.
And I think technically, Ford will use it for. I'm not sure if that's confirmed, but I think it is that Ford Energy will use those LFP cells as well, for their up and coming, company that they created, Ford Energy.
Yeah, they have the SK On partnership. Now those weren't LFP though, right? Those were NMC. I thought that was going to be used for energy storage or something. I don't know what they're going to do there.
They've split those off though now. So SK is going to take those, like SK will take their plants, Ford will take their plants, and they're completely going to separate. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly what their plan is there, but yeah, I mean, it just stinks. I mean, I don't know. I've seen people are like, oh, it's, Ford took money and they're not utilizing because they're going to build ice trucks there at the plants in Tennessee, right? So, I mean, I don't think Ford wanted to waste billions of dollars, right? So
there's no way they did.
Like, it's not the case. They wanted it to be successful, but it's not happening. And it's not just not happening for Ford. It's not happening for a lot of other companies, Tesla included, right? I mean, and not just in the United States, worldwide, there are significant slowdowns happening, and not just, there's so many reasons why it's happening, right? It's not just EVs,
Rising
it's not just
costs,
politics,
uncertainty. There's so many things, reason why the markets are dying. I mean,
let me ask you guys this interesting thought experiment, which is, do you think the EV truck being the first one for the universal platform is the wrong decision? And I say that because neither the Cybertruck, the F-150, none of the GM trucks, the Rivian, none of them have done particularly well. And when you think about the R1T, for example, the R1S smokes it. Wouldn't it have been better for the first universal one?
Well, the problem is the price, Chris. I agree with you. If it's $60,000 to $80,000, it's 100% the wrong truck. But at 30, now you're talking to the guy who's got a day job, and he's looking at a Maverick. And there's a lot of people buying Mavericks versus guys buying a Lariat Power Boost. So you compare those two. I don't think it's the wrong move. I think they're going to have an Escape replacement right behind whatever this truck is.
I hope so.
I will say, if they could go back, though, and hindsight is 2020, Chris, I think if they could go back and they knew that they were going to cancel Escape when they were, I think they probably would have said, maybe we would have switched those up, brought the Escape SUV first, because we have Maverick already, right? Like, but maybe I'm just speculating, but maybe because of the structural floor, because of the inherent things that come with the truck, such as you have a big bed that you can kind of mess around with, right? As opposed to an SUV where it's all enclosed. Maybe it's easier for them to do a truck first so that they could do exactly what they wanted with structural floor and stuff.
There's a million SUVs out there. There's ID4, there's Equinox, there's so many. Do we need another one?
It's true. There's not a cheap EV truck.
What's the number one selling car on the planet?
RAV4?
At least last year.
Yeah, true. RAV4. Yeah.
Well, no. That's not this year, not last year.
2025 was RAV4, I believe.
Model Y.
But then, Model Y was Model 4.
And so it's an SUV, kind of. So and the Model Y is like $45,000 for the cheap one. Is that right, Chris?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's expensive, dude.
It's expensive.
The Model
And it's
Y
the
is
number
not
one
cheap.
last year. The RAV4
Which
passed
I will
up.
tell you, yeah, but R2 has me worried about that too. R2 is rather expensive for, I mean,
Yep.
I know it's going to be a good package. I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
I think Rivian's going to do a great job. But the lack of dealer network worries me. The price worries me. The reliability of Rivian is not great, and it's towards the very bottom. Those things worry me about the R2, that it's very expensive, and how if Ford can really deliver at $30,000, it's
I
hard. It's
think
going to
you're
be
going to
really
see
hard to
an
beat that. You
XLT
see what
version.
Tello, you see what Tello's offering for
Yep.
more.
Yep.
That was a cool looking truck. I
I
still
love
think
them in
it's pretty
slate. They're
base.
super cool, but they're dead on arrival. I think.
Well, it's just a
I have
base
not
truck.
heard. I have not heard or seen in all the little silhouettes that Ford does, and I can probably find that little silhouette. Here it is. I'm going to pull this up real quick. I'm going to add this real quick. So this is the silhouettes that Ford has, right?
Plug in my computer.
And the one thing I don't see here that just drives me crazy, and this goes all the way back, Jace, to the trip to Detroit that I've been, begging for it. Man, I really want a Bronco Sport. I want a Bronco Sport EV so bad.
I don't
and
know.
it
The
drives
4XE didn't do very well, Chris.
Maybe that's just my delusional thing. I still think it drives me crazy that I still think that Ford could have been the R2 before the R2. Like, you're telling me that a Bronco Sport isn't the R2? I mean, like, tell me this platform. You throw a Bronco Sport body on this platform and tell me that's not the R2.
There may be
cheaper.
plans for that. We don't know.
Yeah. I just noticed that it's
Oh,
not
I
in any
definitely
of these
think-
silhouettes. You know what I mean? Like, doesn't mean they can't build one, but
Well, the problem with the Bronco Sport's a little bit boxy. So with their
small
with their
battery,
aim for aero,
it's not
I think they'll really.
But you know
not,
what?
But they'll find something. It just
The aero thing is strictly driven by the efficiency because of the limitations on BEV. The guys who drive Broncos are 5-minute fill-ups, and they don't give a crap at what kind of mileage it's getting. I mean, the Broncos
I think
still
my
get
Bronco
20 miles an
two-door.
hour.
My Bronco 2-door manual shows the 2.3, not 2.7.
Yep.
I believe though it's smaller tank too, but because it was the 2-door, I think it showed 300 miles at full, and that was generous. I think a lot of
That's
times
what my
it's still
daughter's Mustang
275.
does. We built her a
Okay.
gas 21 4-cylinder Mustang. Shows like 360 miles. And she never even looks at it now. Coming out of her Model 3, she's so much happier in a Ford, for one. She likes the knobs and buttons and tactile feel, but not having to charge at her age, that younger crowd, she doesn't want to deal with it. And I'm trying to put her back in a Model S or a Mach-E, and I can't get her talked back into it. After her experience with the Model 3 and the charge times on trips and at 21 years old, it's very difficult to plan. And she doesn't want to do it. So I don't know, when you get families who are worrying about soccer practice and kids getting sick, and I got to make the PTO, that they want to deal with charging too. I just don't. That's going to be if charging's not a thing, and you have what you have. I think that's why hybrids are going to be. I think the EREV Lightning is going to say, if it's under the cost of the current Lightning, which is going to be extremely difficult to do, it's going to sell like crazy. I heard a rumor that the Rev is not out because the cost is too high. We'll see.
Yeah, well, I think too, it's going to be, what direction does Ford go with it? Like we've said, will the EREV take on more of like a UAV platform-esque thing where they're using unicastings and all that thing? I kind of think no. I really think that EREV is like planned sooner than people think. Like, I think 2 to 3 years Lightning EREV would launch. I think they want that plant.
I have some inside
used.
information on that, and I won't reveal my source, but they're saying 29.
Yeah, and that's quick in terms, of a brand new product coming to market. That's fast.
So I have about 200 comments and 200 people waiting on Everdrive for us. And most of the people who are willing to deal with a gasoline engine, because there's a lot of supporters that won't buy it because they don't want to go back to gas. They don't want to have to deal with gasoline again. But the guys who do, I'm getting so much positive feedback. And for people who don't know what Everdrive is, it's a charge while driving. You put a generator in your truck and extend your range. So there's a whole lot of posts on
Let's pivot to that, because I do like about 20 minutes. I unfortunately do have to go, but let's start talking about that Everdrive and what you've been doing with that, because I want to make sure we have time to talk about that.
Yeah, and I don't want to drag it out too long because there's a lot of information on my YouTube channel and my Facebook page that talks about Everdrive in detail. But basically, what we have done is we created a module that you install on your truck, a plug and play harness that puts another port, a J1772 port, on your vehicle somewhere, usually in the bed or under the bumper or something. Then you can put a generator in the truck and extend the range. That's the short of it. There's a lot more long of that, of what type of generator and how does it work and what kind of range extension do you get. So there's a lot more going on there, but you can get up to 500 miles out of the current Lightning with the extended range battery and the large onboard chargers, meaning a 22 and 23 that had the 19 kilowatt charging. You're probably going to get 350 miles to 400 miles out of the current version, which has the 48 amp charging. So this is kind of the extreme. This is a 28,000 kilowatt Ford charger that we're seeing here that I mounted on a heavy built, homemade, it's factory built kind of thing, but hitch carrier. You don't really hear it running. That's an open frame generator, guys. That's not an inverter. I wanted to test the loudest, baddest ass. Just what can this do? It's 70 mile an hour. You kind of forget it's back there. When you pull up to a stoplight, you're definitely reminded that it's back there. It's loud. But it's a thing where we have it automated where you can have it kick on at a certain mile an hour, kick off at a certain mile an hour. It's tied into the steering wheel controls on the truck. We are working on integrating it into the user interface of the instrument cluster and or the center screen right now. So when you're using it, feels like it belongs to the truck. That's our goal right now. That's kind of more of the delays. We do have this coming to market. It is going to be a plug and play kit. We're hoping around $2,000 for the kit and the module. And then you bring whatever generator or battery source that you want to bring. So a lot of guys are going to put a battery set up 40, 50, 60 kilowatts in the bed of their truck, or even smaller, and just run off of that with an inverter. Let that produce AC power and you dump it into the truck. Doesn't care what power you give it. It just needs AC power. You don't care if it comes from a battery, a generator. You just need AC power. So I've had a lot of people ask me, can I use solar? Sure. You want to gain 1 mile per the 300 miles you do? You can use solar.
You can do it.
It's not going to move the needle, but I get a lot of questions on how far. And we're working on building the website right now. One of the big things that we're going to put on that website is a FAQ section that tells you exactly all these questions. And then I have built an Everdrive calculator, an HTML-based Everdrive calculator. You put in your truck, you put in the generator size you're getting, and it will calculate and tell you how far you can go. So it's going to be a real quick and simple, like, if I buy this for my truck, I want to know realistically what I'm going to get. So that's the testing that we've done. I've taken 4 different trips now with lots of ranges of of generator sizes, and tried to test what do you get out of that. And we did it towing. We did it in the winter. We've done it in the summer. We did 500 miles theoretically on gasoline. The limiting factor with a generator right now is their onboard fuel tanks are like that one I showed you that Chris, you were showing there, 17 gallons. So it's 425 miles of range with that fuel cell. So if you add a few more gallons, 500 miles is doable. We went 400 and some miles on 1 tank of fuel on that generator and had battery left. So that is totally dependent on wind, speed, all the things we've been talking about with the Lightning. So at 70 miles an hour, we were doing from 80 to 50% battery on 200 miles. It's crazy.
Great.
The nice thing is I tried to tell people when you're talking about a Lightning or a Chevy EV or whatever, you're not using that full range ever. The Chevy touts 440 miles. I don't know whose bladder can go 440 miles, but it damn sure ain't mine. And you're going to stop where the chargers are. So what we learned in real life going to Florida with Everdrive was we were able to go like 220 miles, get out, and it was a 15 to 20 minute charge because the truck hadn't used enough of its energy in the battery to need that. And we were getting about 25 miles per gallon out of that huge generator on just the generator. So you go 25 miles on a gallon of gas out of the generator. You still have to figure the energy from the truck was using out of the battery too. So the total effective rate or whatever was probably pretty expensive. But the rest of the year, when you don't want the generator, throw it in the garage, return it to grandpa because you borrowed it from him, take it back to the rental place. There's a lot of options. But I've had so many people tell me that they want a removable generator. I hear that all the time. They feel like it's the right way to go. So Chris, if we put that in your truck, it's a plug and play kit. You go down to United Rental, you rent a generator, you strap it in the bed, you plug the thing in, and now you're going to Disney World on one charge, not 4 or 3. And so that's kind of the idea. I don't know if there's going to be, I don't know how big it gets. I don't know if these kits are going to be something that you rent a kit and rent a generator, or you buy the kit. Right now, we're just going to sell them. We have no idea what it's going to do to the warranty on the truck, as any aftermarket product does to the warranties on trucks. You put a tonneau cover on your truck and it messes up the plastic on the top. You think Ford's going to cover that? No, but they have to prove that it was the problem. And so we are tying into the AC side of the system. So if you short out a wire somewhere and they can trace it back, yeah, it could cancel that claim on your warranty. But I don't think we're going to have those kinds of problems, because it is zero different from you plugging in at the house. We are literally just activating the onboard chargers in the truck. So a lot of people talk about their charger at their house. First of all, the thing you got on your wall that you plug in your truck is not a charger. It's an EVSC. It's just a control. The charge happens in the truck. It converts the AC energy to DC energy to put in the battery inside the truck. And that's
You're going back to old school EV days. I remember that.
all
Oh,
EV.
that's fun. It's
So
not a
that's all we're
charger.
doing.
That's not a charger. I used
Yeah,
to love
yeah.
that. That was so funny.
And we all call them chargers. I still
It's
don't
an
call them chargers.
EVSC. Yeah, I do too.
It's just easier to call them chargers, but it's really, and so that's all we're doing. You take an EVSC, you mount it on a generator, you throw it in the bed of your truck, plug it into the onboard chargers you have now via a port, just like the port on the fender. The J1772 is the top piece. You're just turning it on. So we have ordered harnesses, production intent harnesses. We have 3 of them coming. They're going to be here the next couple of weeks. I'm hoping by the end of next week. And then we're going to get with our local. We're probably going to market these through a local company. I'm not going to release that just yet, because they have a huge base that they can get these out to the public. And then it will be something that we can buy. We're hoping by early summer we have these ready to go. And Zach and I both work day jobs. This is not our full-time job. I guess it could be if it got big enough, but there's only 100,000 trucks, 110,000 trucks out there in Lightnings. And that's what we're starting with. I've been asked, can this go to Tesla? Can this go to Silverado? There's no reason.
I was gonna ask the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no reason it can't. So I think we could go to other products as long as we can figure out how to simulate the safeties that we've been able to simulate with the Ford. This system is completely safe. If you have Everdrive on and running in the bed of your truck and you open the charge door, instantly reverts back to factory. All of Everdrive is deactivated, and you can immediately plug into a fast charger without ever even turning the generator off. You don't do that. You'll turn it off because it's loud, but it is completely safe. We have spent hundreds of hours testing and going through things. I don't know how many nights Zach and I have been in my shop till 2 or 3 in the morning programming, trying to get this right, and we've got it right now. It works wonderfully.
You
got to get the production intent parts here so we can actually start having some beta testers. We have about 4 or 5 guys now that are going to beta test these for us. And once those different feedbacks come back in and we change some programming, then we're going to get it on a bigger scale.
You laughed off the solar panel idea, but I got to tell you, man, the people that make the tonneau cover that I have, WorkSport, came out with a system that has a solar panel tonneau cover. And it goes into a backup battery pack, basically, right?
Yeah.
You would then have to take that backup battery, and it's just like any number of other aftermarket backup batteries, right?
Yep.
And you would then have to take a EVSE, a mobile charger, and then charge your truck. But then you've got all the losses with that.
Correct.
But if you could have a tonneau cover that you could have any number, if you could just lay across any tonneau that you had a bunch of solar panels, and I believe you moved your connector into the rear of your like the tow hitch area, didn't you?
Yep.
If you could make one that had that instead of the J1772, could you make a connector that had a solar, like what are those standard solar panel connectors?
Just an adapter. You just go,
You know?
you can just do a J1772 to the solar adapter. The problem with it is, Chris, is most solar panels
could
are
you
like
do a
4 by
direct
5
DC
foot.
or no? Not really.
You could. It's only about 800 watts on the bed of the truck at very best conditions. So 800 watts is 0.8 kilowatts.
I know it's nothing,
It
but
takes
it's
30 to move the truck down the road.
Yeah. But I'm just imagining out here in California where it's sunny during the summer, man. Like,
Oh yeah, if you park it for 4 or 5
many
days,
hours.
sure. Oh, the guy's camping. I think it's a good idea. I really do. And there'll be niches for it. I don't think Work Sport's going to sell a ton of those, but they will sell some. And you can tie it in, and you have your battery. And yes, it's a great idea. It's going to be another niche. There's only so much energy that can come from so many square inches of sunlight. It's just.
I think about the people that are out there camping, or they're out at a NASCAR event, or it's sitting there on the weekend, all weekend long, just sitting there. I mean, and then think about how many weekends that happens throughout the year. And that's not nothing. I mean, I know it's not.
No, it's not. Well, look at Aptera. So they got 3 sets of solar panels in the Aptera, and it is so efficient. We talked about efficiency earlier. Aptera is claiming, and I haven't seen the real numbers yet, but 10 miles per kilowatt hour. That is so much more than any other EV ever. That's why they get 40 miles of range out of solar a day, because it just takes so little to move it down the road. That dolphin shape behind the vehicle just doesn't create a vacuum, a vortex back there that pulls it back. It's very efficient and going to be accepted about like the Cybertruck, I think, because it's so different. Yeah. It's like a Polaris slingshot, but weird looking, right? So but we really don't know. That is a needle mover because it's so efficient. But when you talk about putting solar panels on a flying brick like the Silverado or the Lightning, I think it will help a little bit. Like when I'm at fish camp in Canada, I plug into 110 and I get it's about 1.5 kilowatts, so 1,500 watts. So if you doubled the size of the bed of the truck and use that, it would work. You could unfold it. Elon himself has said on the Cybertruck, they were talking about an unfoldable, where you're camping, where you get some sunlight coverage. And I think it would be a good maintainer. It will never.
I think that's what's tough about the
moving
solar
down the road
too.
Sustainer.
Yeah, I think that's what's tough about the solar argument too, is that you're probably always going to have access to a 110. At least something like that. So it's sort of like a trade-off. You might as well just use the 110 if it's there. You're still talking a full charge in 5 days or whatever. But or 4. But
I get 20. I honestly, in a 24-hour period on 110, I get 20%.
Yeah,
and I do it a lot. Because if I'm plugged in, if I'm somewhere where I can get 110, well, if I'm going to be there for a few days, sure. You go to an Airbnb and you're going to be there 3 days, plug her in.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I just love the idea of free, man. If it's free, it's me. The idea of having that, if I could just have it sitting out there in the sun all weekend long, just getting 10 kilowatt hours of free energy. I just love the concept.
I want to do solar, Chris, here because I love your setup and how that is. The problem here is we're 10 cents a kilowatt hour after stuff.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, I know. And I can't justify the cost to get the free out of it. And honestly, I have to put batteries in because when my truck is wanting to charge at home when we have the best sun, I'm at work.
I'm literally in talks now with there's a guy up past Stockton, Sacramento area that's got like 8 of the Tesla Powerwall 2s, and Tesla now is on Powerwall 3, but he still has like old new stock, and he's selling them for like $5,500 now because the new Powerwall 3s are out. And so,
I thought those were like semi-recalled though, Chris.
So these are Powerwall 2 Plus. So they are the ones that came out right after the recall. And I have the Powerwall 2 Plus as well. So now my problem is if I go buy this thing, I have to find an electrician that knows how to install it and commission it. So I'm trying to talk to a guy now, and it's looking like it's going to cost me about $2,000 to install it and commission it. Now I'm up to $7,500. Doesn't make sense anymore. try to do the math to see.
Well, I'm trying fighting that same fight, Chris. But here's where my mind's going. You can buy a 90 kilowatt hour Mach-E battery on eBay for like $1,800.
See, again,
It's crazy.
You and I are so different. See, Martin can go and buy that and wire it up. And do
You
that.
just have to figure out how to get the
Chris-
energy out, right?
Chris cannot do. Chris is going to burn his house down, Martin. And I need
It's my job. It's my job as an engineer to provide you with a system that you can put in your garage and plug it in. Just plug it into the wall or whatever. Plug it into your solar.
Yeah,
So
and
that's how
this is the other-
Everdrive is going to be.
and
You
for
can
those that
wire
don't
that truck
know-
on a Saturday with basic hand tools. If you're competent with mechanical, Chris, you might have your brother-in-law come help you or something. But we're trying to make it simple. I like the
And
KISS method for those who know what that is.
We even have different garages too. This is funny too. So my garage is just big enough to fit a washer and dryer and my wife's Model Y. Martin's garage, garage. If you haven't seen it, go to my channel, look up my trip across America, and go look at Martin's garage, which has a lift, a forklift, a couch, an entire man cave. It's got like 3 cars in there, it's got a welder. It's got,
Now I do have a 2-car garage attached to the house like yours.
yeah.
I call that
Got a pole barn. That's what we call it up here. A pole
Yeah,
barn.
it's a pole
It
barn. It's a
is.
red iron pole barn. But yeah, no. So the thing is, I want to be able to make things easy for the average guy. The Everdrive kit is supposed to be easy. I will knock it a little bit. I hate dealing with gasoline. Have you guys tried to fill a new generator lately? Not on a truck. Just try to fill one with gas.
With those new gas cans.
They got
guys
the
have the
stupid
California
screens in
style?
to make them
Yes.
not splash. You got to
Yes.
take that out, or you go really slow filling, and you get it on your hands, and you get back in the truck, in your electric truck, and you got
Horrible.
freaking gasoline on your hands. I hate that part of it. I deal with it because it's 500 miles, and we've done it over and over and over now. Zach is on a trip to Dallas, or was this week, and he got 350 miles out of his standard range Lightning with 11 kilowatt generator. That's a smaller. It's like it's all worth it when you're family and you're doing that. And then the rest of the year you're just driving on battery. That's the thing. So I don't know where Ford's going with the E-Rev. I hope it's a removable. I almost guarantee you it won't be.
I don't think so.
Probably
And I just hope that, in my 9-to-5 life, we have a company that we work with called Harbinger, and Harbinger makes a chassis for our box trucks, and it's a full battery electric, and they also have an E-Rev version, but the chassis is exactly the same for both of them. And the only difference is that in their E-Rev, they have an inline 6, I think. It's either an inline 6 or an inline 4. I can't remember which. But they also do like there's a bread company, Bimbo. Does that sound right? Bimbo bread.
Bimbo.
Bimbo, is that? Yeah. What, I can't remember that company. They make the same thing. They're box trucks, and they do the E-Revs for them. And they have a great program where they just basically take off your gas truck. They take the entire box off and they just put it onto their chassis, and it really helps save the money to convert it over. And so we were looking at their chassis for battery electric and E-Revs, and they've done a great job with that, where the only difference really is truly that that E-Rev version, and then one has more batteries, one has less, and it just has the exhaust system and whatnot. And it's now that's easier when you're looking at the frame rail system that they build, and how it's just got them sitting between the rails. You pull one out, you put in more battery packs. But I would love for Ford to think about that, to where all they had to do, you've got the electric motors, you got the electric batteries, you got the electronic control systems, you got the battery management system. It's all right there.
The tough part is the size you need. So even if you took the Lightning platform we have right now, and you were able to put a motor in it somewhere, the Rev is sitting at 3.5 Pentastar, 3.6 Pentastar engine, because you have to have you can't just take a 50 or 75 horse motor and expect it to do the work, because it's going to be running at so much of its duty cycle. It's going to be working the crap out. So that's why they're making a 175 horsepower to 135 kilowatt running. The engine has to be, you know, rated so much higher than that. But I think it's doable. You only need, honestly, you only need for most people about 40 to 50 kilowatts of power to just propel the truck. The E-Rev, or I'm sorry, the Ram Rev, it's an E-Rev, is going to have 130 kilowatt because they wanted to tow 14,000 pounds up a hill.
Yeah.
So I don't know that that's necessary. Most people don't tow. Chris, have you ever towed anything with either one of your Lightnings?
Never.
Jace, you do, but it's not every day. And you don't need to, even if you knew your range was going to drop when you're towing, okay. But if the rest of the time you're on a trip and the truck's just running off of the range extender, you only need 40 or 50 kilowatts. Now we're backing down in that BMW i3 range extender size, which we'll see. We'll see how this goes. I don't know what Ford's going to do. I don't think it's going to be as big a battery as Dodge, and I don't think it's going to be as big an engine as Dodge, but we'll see.
I could see it going to like 10. Yeah, meeting basically the current Lightning.
I'm just going to put this out there. Somebody can go back and look at this
pounds.
video 2 years from now when they release specs on the 40 Rev. It's going to be between 50 and 70 kilowatt battery.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
fellas,
my call.
I got to get my daughter to dance.
Yep.
But
No
you
worries.
guys continue the conversation, and I will listen in from the truck as I'm on the way to dance.
Take care of family. That's why we've been busy. Life gets in the way.
I appreciate
I'm
you
heading
guys,
out too. I gotta just finish carpet.
Yeah, I think we're gonna
gonna
end
wrap
here
it
pretty
up.
quick. We had one question I wanted to answer for our
Yeah,
viewers.
Oh yeah.
So the guy was asking about automatic car washes. That's a great question. I just did my first fully automatic with the rollers and stuff on my truck, and I hate those. First of all, I hate those because they scratch the shit out of your paint.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
So
drop off,
use
guys,
the
but I'll
Touchless
listen.
only.
Touchless only.
Yep.
And I used one of the touch ones to try it. It did work well, but I had to buff my truck afterwards, FYI. But so charge port door, you are running a risk of that coming off. So if you're going to run through one of those, I would recommend you get some duct tape and duct tape thing closed so it doesn't pop open. I know that's not a great solution. And on me, on the antenna, I took it off. It takes 2 minutes to just take that thing off of there.
Yeah, or get a shorty antenna.
Or get a shorty antenna if you're going to do them very much. So, and I'm a tall antenna guy. I like FM radio, and we're out in the middle of nowhere, so I still run the tall one. But yeah, this is I would do touchless, and they do.
Yeah, if you can
not
find
finish
touchless, dude. Yeah, go touchless. If
I
you
don't
can
know what
find it,
color
'cause
your truck
paint
is,
gets
but if it's
killed.
black, you're going to regret the swirl marks if you run through a touch, because they're hitting your paint. Being a paint and body shop myself, you're hitting the paint with other people's dirt stuck in those rollers, and it's scratch and scratch and scratch. They do a great job, but if you look at a car that's been run through 100 times, they look like they've been swirled like crazy. The paint is just wrecked. And do not do that.
You'll see it on carbonized gray. We have one too. You'll see it. Yeah. I tried touchless, but if you can't, you're good. You can go through. I've seen people go through even without duct tape on their charge port, but
I didn't duct tape mine, and it didn't pop open. But boy, was I nervous, because it just takes a little pressure to pop that door open. And holy crap, that's $300 if you wreck that.
Yeah.
So carbonized gray, it's a dark color. You do that very many times, you're going to see it. Hand wash or touchless car wash. That's what I do.
And ceramic if you want. That's what we do, and I love it.
Yep.
Looks so good.
Yep.
So.
All right. Chris Bale.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah, we'll have to do this again more often. Maybe we'll try not to have this month between thing.
I like it. Yeah. Well, now we got some stuff to talk about, so it makes it more fun.
Sounds good. Everybody, thanks for joining in. We will see you next time.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.